It's 2008 all over again for gamers. If you didn't know, one of the biggest digital economies just crashed almost 50% to $3 billion from an all-time high of about $6 billion. This is all because of a recent patch. You can see this line here just in free fall. We still don't know how bad the damage is. Penguin Zero 20 hours ago saying $1 billion in market cap was lost. 9 hours ago, Atrioc made a video that says $2 billion is lost, and I'm making a video where $3 billion has been wiped out. So it's anyone's guess as to where it goes from here. But what we're talking about today is Counter-Strike 2, a popular shooter game where you have in-game cosmetics which have different levels of rarity. We covered all of this in a long 3-part series on my main channel where we exposed the underage gambling problem in Counter-Strike, but suffice to say, because of the in-game rarity, people have taken to speculating on the value of these items, and some of the rarest, knives and gloves, were going for tens of thousands of dollars. But that all changed basically a couple days ago when Counter-Strike issued an update where you could basically trade up for knives. Here you can see it right here. You could trade 5 of your covert items for 1 regular knife or 1 regular gloves items, completely changing the entire sort of digital economy they had going on, the supply and demand of everything. And because of that, the entire economy crashed, but it also kind of had a reorganizing effect. Some items are down, let's see here, 96% in the last 24 hours. Some items are up 3,000%, because if you had those items you could trade up for a knife, all of a sudden those are more valuable because you can use those more worthless items. Now this primarily affected the whales the most, the collectors, the people who had thousands, tens of thousands of dollars in these digital skins. You can see here this guy has $60,000 in virtual currency basically, and he's about to recalculate, what it is after the update, and you're gonna see how devastating this update was for some people.
$58K, okay? Now we make a shake. Let's see, guys. 58K to what? 58K. Ah!
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he lost basically $40,000 in the space of one CS2 update, which ironically was called a small update. Now look, there's a lot you can say here. I think one of the biggest things is that obviously this illustrates the weakness of these speculative markets where someone controls the supply of your collectible item. This is always the biggest risk as a collector of any kind of item with no real value, maybe speculative value. You can think like Pokemon cards, other collectibles like that. At the end of the day, you can always have the parent company just release a bunch more of their rarer items and change the supply for everyone. So it's really not a good idea to probably put a ton of your net worth into these items. I also want to say specifically with Counter-Strike, one of the things we highlighted in our series is just how little the company listens to its community. I mean, let's be clear. Valve is good at some things. Steam is, for the most part, a really good product. The problem is they don't listen to their community hardly at all. They're sort of known for not caring what their community thinks once they make a decision. This even goes to the highest level of Valve. In the 3rd video in my 3-part series, I showed a clip of Gabe talking about how much power people at Valve have over these giant economies and how really no one's looking over their shoulder.
People at Valve have to get used to working without a safety net. Yeah. There's nothing between you and a customer. You can do something. You can come in that morning, and by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you have a million customers, right? And
they're all emailing you.
They're all me emailing you. And you probably should fix it, right? But nobody's looking over your shoulder. And for some people, that's liberating. For some people, it's terrifying.
So yeah, this is an open secret of Valve's style of operating. And the other thing worth noting is that it's not universally hated as an update. Some of the players who like to actually play the game, some of them are now happy that knives have fallen in price, understandably so. Maybe they were priced out of the market. And of course, people are also happy if you have a bunch of items that people can just trade up. But I think it illustrates that this market was always and is always going to be a speculative one, where people need to realize that these items have no real value other than what someone else will pay for it. And so if you're buying these skins for any other reason than you just enjoy how it looks, you're gonna be at risk of Valve basically rugging you. They completely control the supply of this market, and there's nothing you can really do about it. If you're gonna be one of these collectors who's hoping that their portfolio of knives goes up in value, you can just have all of it kind of disappear one day. And I think this is pretty well illustrated by one of actually our interviews on the CS2 Gamba videos. Arrow, he was basically out in the middle of nowhere when this update dropped, and you can see sort of his reaction kind of sums up how big of a deal this whole thing is.
What happened?
Did you not say that you can trade reds for knives now?
You can trade up reds?
Oh, brother, you need to run home. Brother, reds are
Bro,
going...
I haven't had internet for like 6 hours or 7.
Brother, reds are going for 16 times the amount.
There's no way this is true.
Brother, I'm not getting...
I have to be getting trolled. I can't even open up Steam.
It literally is gaming's 2008. I mean, people were all calling each other saying, check your inventory, you gotta sell, you gotta buy. Some people are finding out that they've lost half of their value overnight. And all of this reminds me of one of the early stories of how crypto started. Vitalik Buterin, who is the founder of Ethereum, of course, part of his origin story was that World of Warcraft changed some of the rules and his warlock character got less powerful, and it was such a nightmare moment for him. He realized how devastating it is to have centralized characters in charge of your, video game or whatever. Now, I have seen people say, oh, that's why crypto would have fixed this, like crypto is the answer. Kind of not though, too, because a lot of the crypto games that I've seen come out, the people in charge of the rarity items and stuff can still have minting authority over new updates, new changes. NFT projects, you're always risking that they're going to release a new collection. So, I've seen that argument that, oh, crypto would have solved this. I don't really think so, actually, ironically. I think this is just what happens when a speculative market gets huge, and ultimately the guys in charge decide to change the rules all of a sudden. I mean, that's just always going to be a risk you have. So devastating for the market. I mean, literally down 49% from the all-time high. Billions of dollars wiped out, and I feel bad for the people who had a bunch, invested in this. I do want to say, as silly as this whole story is, or it seems to be with, it's just this online economy, some people were seriously affected by this to the point where reportedly, and this is unconfirmed, but that some people even, jumped off buildings because of this. In China, they actually have one of the biggest skin trading markets, with the marketplace buff.gg being absolutely huge, and people all of a sudden seeing their balances basically fall in half or more overnight. So that's horrifying. I hope that's not true, but the reports we are seeing are very concerning. And I just wanted to mention it because, at the heart of all of these kind of speculative bubbles, there is a real human cost to people who lose a bunch of money overnight. I do want to say, I don't know how, they're going to recover from this. Valve, I mean, because really what this crash represents, it's more than just a supply shock. It's also a big reminder to all of their customers that at the end of the day, overnight, the marketplace can fundamentally change. And I don't think that realization in people's heads are going to change anytime soon. I also want to say specifically for the trade up items, it's my understanding that there's a 7-day trade hold when you first get an item on Steam. And so what's interesting about that is that there are all these new knives and gloves flooding the marketplace right now that cannot be traded. And in 7 days, they will be tradable. So it's possible that the market, unbelievably, may even go down from here, although I'm certainly not price forecasting. I'm just saying if you want to get your items on something like Buff or a third-party marketplace where you can actually sell it for cash, if you're trying to race to get ahead of the, arbitrage here, I don't think we're going to see for a while basically how this actually shakes out. And that's kind of what's so unbelievable about all of this. So yeah, that's basically it. I wanted to cover this since I had an insight into how Valve operates from my gambling videos, where I saw their indifference to sort of customer feedback. But also, it's just a huge market move in general for gamers. And yeah, I think it's going to be remembered, honestly, as one of the biggest moments ever in the history of Valve updates.